just see it. I'm your host, A.T. Martinez. Today we're going to continue our series of going through the book of Revelation.
Revelation 12 starting in verse 1. Reading from the New King James Version. The woman, the child, and the dragon. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven, behold, a great, fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1260 days. Revelation 12 starting in verse.
Okay, let's see what we got here. I know this is a very short section. We've only covered a total of 6 verses, but these 6 verses introduce 3 of the main characters. The first point that we see is the woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head is a garland of 12 stars. This is Israel. The 12 stars in her garland represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, what's interesting is that we see that the woman is already, as of verse 2, she's already being with child, meaning she is pregnant with a child. This child, which we will see in verse 5, is Christ. The second character that comes in is the red dragon, or Satan. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the verses here, we behold the great fiery red dragon having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his head. And his tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it is born. Satan. What I find interesting is we see that Satan pulls with him a third of the stars, meaning he pulls a third of the angels with him. Now, when we get into the next section where we see about the war in heaven, we'll see that they lose and are kicked out of heaven. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, prior to this point in history, Satan has gotten the freedom to go up and down between the earth and heaven. He's been the accuser of Christians all this time. We see this story here taking place where Satan is now ready to devour Christ as he's born. So this is something that has already happened. It happened 2,000 and some odd years ago, where Satan thought he could take and capture the woman and devour Christ and stop the process. This didn't work, because as the woman is caught up, the woman gives birth to Christ, who is to rule all nations with an iron rod, meaning Christ will become our ruler. He is to be our king. We know this. Then the woman flees into the wilderness to a place that is prepared for her by God. And then here's where we get a time switch. When she flees, she's going to go for 1,260 days. Now, we know how long that is. 1,260 days is... Okay, let's look it up on a calculator. Sorry about this, folks. We should have had this ready. It was my bad. 1,260 days divided by 350 some odd days. 355 days, which is the lunar calendar, gives us basically 3.5 years. This is talking about a specific time frame in the time of the tribulation. It covers, she is protected for the for 3.5 years from the wrath of Satan. Okay, when is that 7 years? Well, the 7 years is the tribulation. So what part of the tribulation is she protected and hidden? It is my belief that this is talking about those first 3.5 years. Because after that, as we'll see later on, that Satan is given power to make war on the saints. So the first 3.5 years, she's somewhat protected. Israel is safe. So what we have here is basically the three sides of the tribulation. You have Satan and his side, you have Israel, and you have Christ. Now Christ is ever present but not present in the tribulation. He doesn't show up and walk around and visit everybody. He already did that once 2,000 years ago. So Christ is present in the hearts of the believers, but he's not walking the earth during the tribulation. Christ shows up at the end of the tribulation, finishing it. And we will get more to that later. So, what can we take from just these first 6 verses? Those 3 personages. Now, keep in mind that as you've been reading through Revelations with me, we've already gotten through the seals. We just finished the trumpets. We know the bowls are coming because I've told you this. So, but yet, we're taking a pause. Part of that reason for that pause has been to introduce these characters, introduce what's going to happen, and go through.
Revelation 12 starting in verse 7. Reading from the New King James Version. Satan thrown out of heaven. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time.
Alright, this section, which is Revelations 12, starting in verse 7, we hear about the archangel Michael goes to war against Satan. Satan goes to war against him, and each of them fights with their host. Satan fights with 1/3 of the angels. And these 1/3 obviously are outnumbered. They get thrown out of heaven, thrown to earth. No more is Satan allowed to go and criticize and accuse Christians or the believers. We see in verse 10, Now I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation and strength and the kingdoms of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren who has accused them before our God day and night has been cast down. Basically, Satan no longer is allowed to make accusations. Now, go back to the time frames. This seems to appear to me to happen roughly at the 3.5-year mark. After that, Satan is down on earth, in his power, in his glory, and he's kind of ticked off. We know he's mad at the woman, he's mad at Israel, and he's been mad at Israel for years, decades, centuries. Now he's down on earth, and he's out to get revenge. We see this in the next chapter, in the next section. But before we jump into that, Understand that Satan, when he left and he was kicked out, he only brought with him 1/3 of the angels. This means that available to our side is twice as many angels as he has. We have a 2-to-1 ratio. God has a 2-to-1 ratio of angels to Satan's demons. He could basically assign one angel per demon and still have an equal number ready. Now, I don't know how God assigns angels. I know there are many types of angels that are out there. There are the angels that are supposed to protect each and every one of us. Now, some of you may be saying, well, Satan's got tons of demons. Well, he does. We hear the word that they are actually legion. There are so many. But the thing to take heart in, the thing that should lift your spirits, is for every demon that Satan has working for him, every fallen angel in his camp, there are 2 angels to counter them. This means that as Christians, we have an advantage. We don't need to assume we're going to lose. We don't need to assume that we're outnumbered. We're not. I know sometimes it seems that way, especially when we look at society and see how evil it's becoming. That evil is growing, and it was foretold. We understand that it's coming. But it doesn't have to keep us down, because we have them outnumbered. We may not outnumber the humans, but we outnumber the angelic forces. By that I mean the fallen angels. Our side is better than his side. I brings in mind, the old saying, my daddy's bigger than your daddy. Well, our God is bigger than anything Satan could throw at us. Because our God's servants, his direct servants, outnumber Satan. This does not count the archangels, which are an entirely different category, that are on the same par with Satan. Yes, Satan originally was the highest of all the angels, but Michael beats him. Now, there are not a lot of angels that are specifically mentioned in the Bible. We get mentions of Raphael, we get mentions of Gabriel, and we get mentions of Michael, and of course, we get mentions of Lucifer or Satan. So, of the 4 archangels that are mentioned in the Christian Bible, 3 of them are on God's side. Now, there are many other archangels that are listed in Jewish history and Jewish tradition. But the bottom line is, no matter how many are listed, Satan only has one, him. All the rest of his demons and devils are simply lesser powers. Now, keep in mind that when we're talking about angels and demons and devils, number one, we're not talking about the stereotypical giant humanoid individuals with great glowing wings that look so beautiful and are impressive. That's not the way an angel looks in the Bible. I mean, if you don't believe me, go look at some of the descriptions, even here in Revelations, of these angels. 4-winged and 6-winged and humongous and, I'll be honest, slightly scary. The demons, they're not, foul, evil-looking creatures. They're just as beautiful as their counterparts. The point to take from all of this is 2-to-1. 2-to-1 in our favor. So as you are battling with the forces of evil, and I'm sure each and every one of us is, if you're not battling with the forces of evil, that means that evil's already won. Or maybe they're taking a break and setting you up. But the bottom line is, as you are in this battle, you have strength and you have forces to call upon for your aid. Remember, the angels are our servants too. If you go to the Lord and ask the Lord to send an angel to protect you, an angel will be protecting you. That means that you can mitigate the influence of the enemy. No, you cannot get a blanket, get out of free card. There is none. The get out of free is you choose to serve the Lord. If you do, you have the forces to keep you protected and keep you walking the straight path. All you have to do is make the right choice. Now, I know this has not covered everything that you want, but remember, this is trying to catch us up and bring us into the full story of what's going on and what's going to take place. Yeah, we had a time jump. The woman gave birth 2,000 years ago, and now we have her protected for 3.5 years. The 3.5 years of the tribulation, part of the tribulation. The idea that John was doing for us was trying to give us a complete story. And sometimes you got to back up. We call them flashbacks. When there's a flashback in a movie, we don't complain. In this case, there's no reason to complain. It's just helping us fully understand as best as we can what is going to happen. All right, this has been this episode of Waiting in Laodicea. I'll be picking up the next episode in chapter 12 again, and that'll be in verse 13. And I look forward to seeing you then. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. Please share this with your friends. Get your friends to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Let's see if we can bring this thing up to 10,000 viewers. If you'd like to support this ministry, the easiest way to do so is just what I've said. Like, share, and subscribe. If you wish to contribute donate to the cause, as they put it, you can do so through this channel. You can become a patron. You can go ahead and make a donation through the channel itself on this platform. Or you can go to our website, which is www.waitinginlaodicea.weebly.com.